right, so let's dive in. Welcome, welcome. My name is Jenna, and I will be the lead trainer for this yoga teacher training session. I've been, just a little quick about me, I've been with Barre and Soul right at January 2020 is when I found Barre and Soul and started there. And then I've seen through a whole shutdown and everything since then and have done the last three yoga teacher trainings, which have all been a great online format. And we'll get into that in a moment. But before I get too carried away with talking about our yoga teacher training, let me pass the mic over to Andrea. Let her introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Andrea. I'm the owner of Barre and Soul. We have 4 physical studios across New England, and we have a thriving online program, including an online teacher training academy for barre teacher training and yoga teacher training and more. We have been doing yoga teacher training since I started the business in 2013. We always had in-person format. We actually had a long form, like 6-month in-person format. And then over some years, we made it even longer, and it was a 9-month that followed the school year. We thought that would be a nice way to cater to our clients in the college communities, and it kind of was. And what we also learned in the course of that is sometimes it is hard for people to complete the training when you're committed to something that takes place over such a long time. And where we really started to see that was during those pandemic years when everybody's life was a little bit upside down. So since then, we have changed our format, and it's been really wildly successful. And we have now condensed it into a much shorter time commitment to being able to complete the program, and with a lot more flexibility now that the Yoga Alliance allows us to do a lot of the training online. We still do have that in-person component because it's really important, we think. And that's just to share a little bit about that the Barre and Soul yoga teacher training has been around since 2013. I'm very excited to be getting ready to kick off another session.
Yes, yes. And then we also have Kelsey joining us. Kelsey, I'll let you give a little intro as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Kelsey, like Jenna said. I completed the yoga teacher training through Barre and Soul 2 years ago now. Time flies with Jenna. Um, and I also work full time. So I travel for work too, which is kind of why I had a hard time finding yoga teacher training that worked for me. Um, but was able to do this one. And now I teach at Barre and Soul in Portsmouth and other studios as well.
Yeah, yes. So Kelsey, we will hear more from you in just a moment, but I'm just gonna share my screen so we can get a little visual here of our program. Okay. Here we go. I'm always like, we've been doing this screen sharing for years, but still it's always like, did I do it right? So here we go. This round, our program will run from September 27th to November 24th. So that November 24th date is our in-person day, which is optional. Your online portion will actually end November 21st. So it's 8 weeks of an online program. We are Yoga Alliance approved. So once you graduate from us, you will be able to register with Yoga Alliance if you wish. You don't have to. But that just means we have followed their rules and regulations, which means that we have to have so many synchronous hours, which is why our online program isn't just a leave you to your own devices. We have to meet together so often throughout the program. So we have a really great video on here. I highly recommend you watch it. But the dates, as I mentioned, September 27th to November 24th, 100% online. But again, you're not on your own. I don't think I can stress that enough. That's what makes it so special. I have done online trainings, and I have also forgotten to complete online trainings because that's kind of the nature of it. If you don't have that person there saying, hey, how's it going? Hey, you didn't get your assignment in. What's up? Do you need more time? We're happy to work with people, but we always do those check-ins to keep you moving along. So the one way we do that check-in is through our 3-hour Zoom calls. Those are up to 3 hours. Sometimes they're a little shorter. And we definitely take into consideration your life. If you do have to miss, just have a conversation with me. If it becomes an ongoing thing, we do to discourage missing the meetings. We have a fee that you have to pay. course, like I said, I'm always happy to talk to you if you have something going on in your life. We can always work around things and make it work. Then we have our optional graduation ceremony and one-day intensive. Now, this is so much more than just a graduation ceremony. We do have a beautiful little ceremony at the end of the day, but this is also an opportunity for you to practice hands-on assists, to practice cueing in front of a live group of people. So you've had 8 weeks of running through cues, learning all the poses, learning how to sequence, and then you have the opportunity throughout to grab a friend and teach to a friend. But if that's not working for you, you have this day. It's an 8-hour day that we spend together where you will get to teach 2 people. So even though it's an online program, you actually can come out of it with having taught 2 people in real time, which is very exciting. So from here, I'm going to pop us over to the actual program so you can take a peek at it. Just want to confirm you are now seeing the program. Awesome, thank you. So this is the very first thing that you will see. Welcome to your Barre and Soul Yoga Teacher Training. So this is the intro of the course, and this is how it'll look. Every section you'll just hit complete and continue. When you do complete and continue it, and it'll take you to the next one. I've already done all these, so it's not going to automatically take us through to the next one. Let's dive into week 1 so you can get an idea of how the weeks will look. So at the start of each week, you'll see the full lineup. We start week 1 with a history of yoga. So while we will teach you everything you need to know to teach, we also want to make sure you understand the background and can share respect for where this practice comes from. So with the history of yoga, you'll watch a lecture on that that's done by one of our wonderful yoga instructors at our Portsmouth studio named Ankati. And then we dive into some poses. You learn the poses. We have our Sunday Zoom meeting. Whoops, there we go. And then I got a little click happy there. After our Sunday Zoom meeting, you have your next assignment, which is 3 sequencing videos. And then your final assignment for the week is a reflection, or it is creating your class. And then we close with anatomy and philosophy quizzes. So what's really great about this program is we're not just learning the physical aspect of it, though you are fully learning so much anatomy throughout, all the ways that you can adjust poses based on your possible clientele. You're also going to be learning philosophy throughout, and have opportunities to just reflect on how you are living, and whether that means you change how you're living and you want to shift things around, or if it means that you just are confident in who you are. You just have that room for self-reflection, which I love. I think we could all use opportunities for self-reflection. So we have your history of yoga videos and then your yoga poses. Now I just want to show you one quick clip here so you can get an idea of how an online yoga teacher training program works. We have all these poses where I teach you the cues, some optional hands-on assists if you like. And then below the videos, you'll see it has the pose, the Sanskrit name, if you are interested. We like to respect, like I said, where this whole practice comes from. Some cues, the benefits, key points, and then also where in our books that we require you can find these poses referenced. So let's take a peek at.
Next up, we have forward fold, Uttanasana. From mountain pose, we'll actually take it through upward salute. Inhale, sweep the arms up high. Exhale, swan dive down, soften the knees at the bottom, and release the neck and head. Beautiful. So hang out here for a moment. In this forward fold, you want clients to find a little softness at the bottom. So really encourage them to soften the knees, relax the neck and head. And if you have people here for a few breaths, you're comfortable with hands-on assist, you've had that conversation with your clients, you can always step up to them, take a hand to the low back, and then just gently guide them down a little bit more. Slowly release, especially if they start leaning their weight into you. Take one hand off, make sure they are stable, release the other hand. And this is your forward fold, Uttanasana.
So that's how you learn all the poses. We have about 60 that you learn, including sun salutations, and they are all thoroughly, I think they're thoroughly explained, with hands-on assist options. And then for some of the other poses, as we get into more challenging poses, there are options to lighten it, to make it more accessible, as well as to challenge people. So we really cover everything in these videos. And then when we come together for our weekly meeting on Sunday, you have a little philosophy section to prepare, so we can have that discussion. But then we also go over all the poses as well, and you actually practice teach the poses to one another. So you get so many opportunities to teach. For the sequencing, every single week, we start you from week 1, just starting to connect poses together. I think that we can study so much about the history of yoga. We can reflect on what it means to us and how we want to grow from it. But when it comes to leading a class, the scariest part is the poses and cueing them, sequencing them, all of that stuff. So we make sure that you are fully confident by the end of this program to lead a class. Throughout the creating section, we start with just defining why you are here, but we make a way into creating a full class. And so we dive into how to create a class, how to connect the poses in a way that makes sense in the body, so that you can confidently create many, many vinyasa classes when you are done with this program. So I'm going to pull back up our website just to pull back up the dates, as well as our optional graduation ceremony. So that's pretty much everything that I have through the program that you do online. But I do really want to talk about the graduation ceremony a little bit more, because that is kind of the culmination of everything. Like I said, we get together at our Harvard Square location in Cambridge, and we not only practice teach to one another, we also learn so many hands-on assists, as well as practice hands-on assists with one another if you're comfortable. But we also have Andrea come join us, and Andrea comes and talks about her experience of not just when she started teaching, but also starting businesses and creating this successful company. And you get to ask so many questions with her. So I'm going to let her take back over and talk a bit about those conversations that she has.
This is the most fun part of my job, and it's probably the most fun day of work for me for the whole year when I get to come to one of these in-person intensives, because something caused every single person in that room to sign up for yoga teacher training. And it's usually a pretty deep reason why inside of them. It's usually a really big deal and a big part of your personal journey and your own personal development. You've invested the money, the time, you've got a full-time job, and something in you has been saying, what about yoga teacher training? And I just take that as such an honor. I feel so honored to be able to be the place that folks come to when they reach that point in their yoga journey. And I really always want to make sure that you're leaving feeling like you got everything that you came for and that you're clear where you're going from here. So I just love the in-person aspect so much. It gives me a chance to go around and really hear from everybody. Like, what's your dream for what you want to do with this yoga certificate? It may be a personal journey and not one that goes on to, starting a business or even teaching classes publicly. A lot of people choose to deepen their own practice, and that's a really powerful why as well. But I like to get to know each and every person's individual why, so that we can dive into the topics that are going to be the most useful for setting you up with a plan for what your next steps are. So inside the recorded modules that Jenna shared, there is a business of yoga training that is going to give you all the fundamentals that you need about getting a job at a studio, or starting or hosting workshops, or starting to teach private clients for yourself. So we give you those fundamentals. And at the in-person day, we do some guided meditation. We really take a little journey into our future. We see our highest vision for ourselves and where we want to go. And then we actually just spend some time really workshopping it and working backwards from that to line up what the next steps are and what the next moves are. When are you going to do it by? Who are you going to tell? And you get to kind of really declare where you're going next on your journey. So that, to me, it's just such an honor to be a part of really getting to know everybody's heart and dreams, and making sure that we're sending people off in the right direction on their journey.
Yes, I have only heard amazing things from folks who've had that conversation with Andrea, just feeling the confidence to step out and take that next step. So thank you. And then we do have Kelsey with us, so I'm going to pass the mic to her in just a moment. But I do want to say that throughout this 8-week course, you will have an unlimited membership to Barre and Soul, and you will also be expected to take classes regularly, just to learn different ways to cue, to experience different instructors. So we have a very large live stream portfolio of classes that you can take. We have daily yoga classes on our live stream. We also have an on-demand section of our classes, and we have a variety of yoga classes there as well. So you will get an 8-week membership with us. All right, Kelsey, can you start by telling everybody how you were able to manage this course with a full-time job?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would try as much as I could to break up the work, like do an hour a day. But if that wasn't realistic on like a really busy work day, then I would kind of load it up on the weekends, spend a couple hours on Saturday and Sunday filming my videos and reading through the text. So I think the fact that part of it is self-paced helps quite a lot with that.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the nice thing too. You can do a ton of work on the weekends. You can get all your reading done. You can you know, review the anatomy because every week ends with that anatomy quiz. You can film all of your pose assignments that at that time. So speaking of filming the pose assignments, Kelsey, what was it like to figure out how to film yourself? How did that feel? Was it awkward at first? Did you get over it? Talk about the filming yourself aspect.
Yeah, yes and yes. So it was a learning curve, getting used to seeing myself on camera, hearing my own voice. But so is just learning to teach yoga. Like it's kind of a vulnerable thing to stand in front of people and try something new. So starting off having it be like a video that only Jenna is gonna watch was kind of a nice way to ease into it. So, figuring out how to set the camera up and save the videos in a way that my music would come through, that's one thing. But after like a week or two of doing it, I kind of had that piece down. And then it sort of turned into a practice and like building my confidence, I'd say.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. And then since graduating, you do teach for us at Barre and Soul, which we love. But the other thing that I really love is you also teach elsewhere. Like we want to set instructors up for success no matter where they land. We have also had people come to our training from well outside of New England, so they can't teach for us. So what was it like to audition and get jobs, not just with Barre and Soul, but also where else you're teaching?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was, I mean, I think the business of yoga aspect of things, having that idea of what I wanted and how I was going to figure it out. Also, you're in a cohort of other yoga students or, YTT students. So I met people who were doing different things. I'm currently teaching at an elementary school locally. And that was something that another yoga teacher that I had met was doing and couldn't take on anymore. So I took it over for her. Um, yeah, so I think one step at a time, but it's nice that we start off with having an idea of what we want.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
thank you for mentioning that because I think that's something else about the cohort that people think with an online program, they're going to be alone going through it, but they're really not. So every week at those Sunday meetings, you're meeting with a group of people. It's not just me and you having a conversation. That would be fun, but it's definitely more fun to have the others. So, Kelsey, can you touch on what those Sunday meetings were like and how it felt to be going through an online course, but with a group of people?
Yeah, absolutely. The Sunday meetings were great. I think my favorite thing about the Sunday meetings was when we would practice sequences together live. Um, I remember the first time we did, I was like so jittery and like nervous to cue like a sun A. And it was kind of nice to feel supported by a bunch of people that are in the same, you know, seat as you are. And it was nice to chat through the topics together and make friends who are in different places. And it's nice that they were on Sunday evenings because it's something that I could easily work into my schedule or Sunday afternoons.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I just wanted to touch on a few other frequently asked questions that we get about this program. So we've kind of talked a little bit about there's required reading. We do dive into 4 books. One is about yoga adjustments. One is the yoga anatomy coloring book, which I mean, I love. It works for my brain, so I hope it works for your brain to see the muscles that are used in poses in different colors. But then there's also 50 poses for every body, which is just a phenomenal book that shows you how yoga can be the same pose can be done by a variety of different shapes, a variety of different people experiencing life in different ways. And there's a way to make yoga accessible for everyone. So that book is really key, as well as Skill in Action. Skill in Action is just a wonderful book that it definitely made me kind of rethink my experience with yoga, my relationship with it, especially as a white woman. So it was something that really gave me opportunity to make sure I deepened my respect for the practice, for those around me, and just the way that I interact. So I highly recommend that book, even if you don't do our yoga teacher training. But with that, outside of those 4 required books, the only other items that you need are just a way to record yourself and a computer, which I think we all have those. So you should be good there. Another frequently asked question is, if something comes up in this throughout these 8 weeks, life is unpredictable, what would happen? We of course understand that there is a fee, but just pay the fee and then you can finish in the next cohort. So in the next section. So we can always address that though. If it comes up, we never want to just leave anyone high and dry. We're always trying to work with people because yoga should be for everyone. And this will be offered again, likely in February. We usually do a winter session. We don't have a start date for it yet, but it'll likely be around that time. And then because this is an online program, with that 8-week membership that you get, you can either choose to take those classes online and keep it fully online, or you can come into a studio. If you are near a Barre and Soul studio, you can come and take those classes live in person. Our yoga instructors love hearing the journey of people going through YTT. So I highly recommend, if you are near a studio, take that opportunity to get in and take those classes in person. I do have a couple more questions that I can answer, but I did want to say, if any questions pop up, feel free to drop it in the chat, or feel free to just ask. But we did have some previously submitted. Before I dive into those, Andrea, was there anything that I missed or you want to touch on?
No, I'm curious for folks that are with us live, what haven't we talked about yet that you might like to know?
I've been just like scribbling down some questions as I go. I don't have to ask them right now. I could wait until the end in case they end up getting answered.
I
I
think
would love to hear your question.
fire away.
Okay. I guess the first one's just super simple. So the Sunday classes, the 3-hour classes, they're Sunday. Do you have a specific time picked out yet?
We don't have a specific time picked out yet. In the past, depending on how many people we get, we've done 2 sessions. Either I believe it was 11 to 2 or 4 to 7. Those have been the session times that we've done in the past, but I've also generally taken like a poll lately and kind of asked people, like, does this time work for you? Would a later time, earlier time? And so far, for the past 3 online trainings that we have done, we have not had anyone say an online time or a time hasn't worked for them. We've been able to finagle it so that we can make everybody happy. That's definitely my goal. It's like I said, depending on how many people we get, if we have those 2 sessions, usually an earlier one and a later one.
Awesome. Yeah, as long as it's Sunday, I think like that's sort of like, yeah, a lot of flexibility. So great. Um, and then I guess it's sort of like I have a lot of different questions kind of all over the place. I'll just keep going. Um, how does the live practicing work like during the 3 hours? So if you're practicing cueing with other students, is it like breakout rooms or how does that work exactly?
That's a phenomenal question. So we meet on Zoom, and what we'll do is I'll assign everybody a couple sequences. We start week 1 with you just have 2 poses. You have to teach one pose into the next pose. That's it for week 1. And what'll happen is I'll assign one person to teach those 2 poses, and then I'll assign a couple people to physically take and a couple of us to sit and observe. So, and it kind of goes around the room. So everyone will either have the opportunity to kind of watch the person, listen to them, and sort of take it in. Someone will have the opportunity to physically experience the cueing, and then the person who's doing the cueing will have the opportunity to kind of be on their mat cueing and moving through the poses as well. And then we just sort of have that conversation. How did that feel? What went well for you? What do you maybe wish had gone a different way? And so that way you can kind of reflect on what just happened. There aren't breakout rooms. I wish I was the techie person to figure out how to do that, but I'm not. So we all stay in one room together. And then we just kind of take turns going around, everybody teaching, either taking or watching.
Honestly, that's probably better than the breakout rooms. And it's more like being in an actual studio anyway. So, okay.
You can get feedback from everybody that watches too, which is nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then for when you're recording your poses, and cue like recording the cueing, is that typically done like you talking to the camera, or can you use someone else as like a prop? Like like if I can drag my husband into this and say, because he does yoga too, like say, I'm gonna cue you.
That's hilarious. Yes, you absolutely can use someone else. I highly encourage it. It doesn't always work for everybody to find someone so willing, but if you have a husband who's willing, go for it. And the way it works is way down here. Your assignment. We use Google Drive to submit the assignments. You'll film either yourself, well, actually, for the poses videos, I would request that you would just do it yourself. For the sequencing videos, if you want to teach someone in those, absolutely okay. But the reason why for the pose videos, I want you to film yourself teaching and doing it is so I can make sure that your form is good, because I want to make sure that you are not only great at cueing, you're also great at demoing. I want to make sure that you're staying safe in your body, or making variations that work well for you. So I would ask for you to film yourself twice, once facing the camera, doing the pose as you cue into it, and then once facing the side so I can hear you. You have the opportunity to kind of get it ingrained in you by that repetition. And then also I can see you in multiple ways. And then you submit by just clicking on a link and adding your name, your email, dropping the link to your Google Drive. And then if you have any comments like, oh my gosh, I totally messed up on that one, but I didn't want to refilm, so sending it anyway. That's always okay. I don't think anybody should sit and refilm. Just let it go. Do the best you can, let it go. But that is how you would submit your videos. We have like a whole step-by-step of how to submit, if you're not familiar with Google Drive. But then for the sequencing videos, if you want to teach to someone, I would love that. The sooner the better. I do encourage everybody towards the end to start grabbing a buddy. But hey, if you want to do that from the get-go, that's awesome, because these you only film once each video and submit them. that's that.
Awesome. Oh, that was
Anything?
super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then just in terms of like the style, like I'm not familiar, like intimately familiar with like the how different trainings are between studios, but um I'm assuming this is probably more like vinyasa oriented rather than like hatha or do you or is it a little bit more like a little bit of everything, or I guess just talk a little bit about maybe the emphasis.
Yeah, you were right. So we do teach vinyasa. Vinyasa is kind of the main style of yoga in the West. As you touched on earlier before we really dove in, there are so many other different types of yoga. There's the hot yoga, the 26 poses and 2 breathing techniques. There's hatha yoga. And we can definitely, throughout the program, if somebody asks a question, I've had somebody randomly just be like, hey, I'm really interested in this. And I've created like a whole presentation and we've talked about it at the next Sunday Zoom call. So there's so much. I mean, yoga's been around for thousands and thousands of years. So there's so much to talk about. If there's something that you are interested in, like, I just want to know a little bit more about this style or what is this, then just let me know. And that's something we can definitely add to one of our Sunday sessions where we kind of just discuss and we answer those types of questions. So, but this is, to answer your question now, this is vinyasa. You would graduate being able to understand vinyasa inside and out, know how to teach it, know the sun salutations, the common components of a vinyasa class. With that said, though, it's very similar to hatha yoga. So we could definitely have a conversation if that's a direction you wanted to go to get you ready for that.
Yeah, you could choose to, because you're going to learn all those poses, and you're going to learn how to flow and how to create a flow from pose to pose and doing those sun salutations and the vinyasas. But you could always choose to teach without the vinyasa component and to just teach the poses as well. So we will cover how to teach vinyasa, but you'll be learning. Did you say it's 60 poses, Jenna?
Yeah, there's about 60 poses in here. There's 3 sun salutations within it.
So yeah, the way you choose to sequence your class, you don't have to certainly do the vinyasa part if you choose not to.
Awesome. And then just one more is I want to kind of understand, like, if you were going to evenly space out, you mentioned like the class requirement, like it'd be either online or in person, but about how many hours a week would that be, assuming you just kind of spread it out evenly throughout the program?
Yeah, so there's 4 classes a week that you have to take. Now, the total amount of work that I would say you're putting in a week, based on the reading, the assignments, the meeting, the classes, I'd say it could be anywhere from 20 to 25 hours. And I think that that number can sound alarming to people who have full-time jobs. And I think that it's totally doable though. I think that I haven't had the majority of people who go through our online program work full-time jobs and they all manage to get all their reading done. I mean, some of them are kind of skidding in at the deadline, like, but they're getting it done. And I've also had people fall behind, and they fall behind because work was just crazy one week. And then I just pull them aside. We have like a little email back and forth, or we meet on Zoom and we just say, hey, so what's it looking next week? What if you do these assignments by this date and kind of get them back on track? So I would say if you're steady with it, 20 to 25 hours a week, like Kelsey said, maybe like you do 6 hours straight on Saturday, or maybe you do, just a shorter time on Saturday because you work weekends, but then you have Tuesday free. So then you do a full 8-hour study session on Tuesday. It's definitely manageable based on whatever schedule you have. But it's a lot, but 8 weeks flies too. And then it's done and it's over. You've graduated and you have your certificate.
Awesome. That was super helpful. Thanks for bearing with my huge list of questions.
No, that's amazing because, I can try to Well, we got some, I think you actually asked some of the questions that we got in. One of them was about the hours, the time commitment. And then I think all the others we answered throughout. Just double checking.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. That's totally what we're here for. And we try to anticipate, but every group's going to have different questions. So thanks for speaking for everybody who's watching the replay too.
Yeah, I would say the only question that I have that we received was if I audition to teach at my local yoga studio, will they accept the certification? And absolutely, we are Yoga Alliance accredited. Yoga Alliance is recognized. In fact, every studio that I've worked at, they've asked for my certificate just to glance at it and see, make sure it says Yoga Alliance on there. So this, no matter where you're coming from, no matter where you're tuning in from, your local studios will acknowledge this certification. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Feel free to email me if you do have any lingering questions or anything that suddenly pops up. You can reach me at teach@barsoulacademy.com. Otherwise, that's all we have. So thank you so much. Andrea, any final words?
Great job as usual. And yes, just hit us up. We are just an email or a DM away. Also happy just to hop on the phone and chat if you have any lingering questions. It's normal to have a little bit of imposter syndrome or to worry, oh my gosh, do I have to be able to do a handstand before I can like be a yoga teacher? So just know that if you're thinking that, or, you know, if that's a question you're maybe embarrassed to ask, like it's probably one of the most common ones is just like, is this the right time for me? Am I qualified? You will be qualified by the end of the training, I can assure you. And if that is on, you know, in your heart, that dream is in your heart, then I would say there's no time like the present. So thank you for joining us. And yeah, please don't hesitate. There's no question too big or small. We're here to support you.
Yeah, thank you everybody. Have a wonderful night.